Episode 2, Honu in Hawai'i. Hawai'i, one of the most remote island archipelagos in the world, surrounded by thousands of miles of ocean waters teeming with life. Within these tropical waters live a vast array of species, such as sharks, eagle rays, whales, countless fish, and sea turtles. There are 5 species of sea turtles found in and around the islands of Hawaii. These are the Hawaiian green sea turtle, or Honu, the hawksbill sea turtle, or Honu ea, the leatherback, the loggerhead, and the olive ridley sea turtles. The leatherback turtle is the largest of all living turtles and the heaviest non-crocodilian reptile, at 7 feet long and over 2,000 pounds. This soft, leathery shelled turtle is estimated to live 40 to 50 years, but little is known for sure about this rare, deep ocean dweller. Females nest at night on tropical and subtropical beaches, and these nesting forays onto land are the only time they come ashore. Leatherback populations have declined nearly 40% over the last 3 generations, sadly leading this giant turtle to a place on the endangered species list. The loggerhead sea turtle, though also endangered, are the most abundant sea turtle found in coastal waters around the world, with a life expectancy of 70 to 80 years. They weigh approximately 350 pounds when fully grown. There are approximately 50,000 individuals worldwide. Mating occurs off coastal waters, and females return to the exact same beaches where they were hatched every 3 to 4 years, making nesting habitat protection a key factor to saving these beautiful creatures. The olive ridley sea turtle are the smallest and most abundant open ocean sea turtles in the world, reaching only about 2.5 feet long. They feed on jellyfish, crustaceans, small fish, and mollusks primarily, and dive up to 500 feet deep to get a meal. Adults migrate between feeding and breeding grounds and become sexually mature between 10 and 18 years of age. Males have longer tails than females. Females lay their eggs on beaches in large groups, sometimes made up of thousands of individuals, and nest about 3 times per year on the same beaches they were hatched from. Olive ridleys can be found in tropical waters worldwide and are listed as endangered in Mexico and threatened everywhere else in the world. The critically endangered hawksbill sea turtle, or Honu ea, is named after its pointed beak, which resembles that of birds. They grow up to 45 inches long and weigh 110 to 150 pounds. Female hawksbill turtles return to the same nesting grounds where they were born to lay their eggs. Hawksbill turtles can be found in the coastal waters of more than 108 countries and help keep reefs healthy by feeding primarily on sponges that outcompete corals. By far, the most often seen coastal sea turtle in Hawaii is the Honu, or green Hawaiian sea turtle. Hawaii is one of only 3 places in the world where these friendly turtles bask or come ashore to rest and regulate their body temperatures on land. This basking can last 2 to 3 days and creates a unique opportunity to view the turtles from public beaches and shores. Green turtles are named such due to the color of their fat, not their shells. Despite population growth, these indigenous turtles remain threatened because there are only about 4,000 nesting females, and most nesting occurs on a single vulnerable atoll in the northwest Hawaiian Islands. Let's find out what people in Hilo think.
Turtles. I love turtles. That's why every time me and my family buy sodas, we cut the plastic bindings off of them so the turtles don't get injured.
Hi, my name is Josephine Villagomez, and the way I feel about turtles is they're a unique species and animal in general. They're really beautiful. They help the planet and the ocean in every way, and they're just really unique and beautiful.
And do you love them?
And I love them.
Hello guys, my name is Janice Burnell, and I really appreciate this island because it made me appreciate turtles more. I came from an island where turtles are not really invasive and we don't have them on island, so coming here and appreciating it and learning from the people of Hawaii on how to protect it and preserve their animal kingdom in a sense is just beautiful.
I love them, but my mom says no, I can't ride one.
Preeminent Honu conservation scientist George Balaz shared highlights from a lifetime of working with sea turtles.
My name is George Harvey Balaz, and I was born in Detroit, Michigan in 1943, meaning I'll be 81 years old in just a few weeks. I graduated from 29 Palms High School in the Mojave Desert. Saw my first turtles there. They were, of course, the California desert tortoise, and married quite young, happily, to my wife Linda. And shortly after being married, we decided we needed to leave the smoggy air of Southern California and seek out a new life. We moved to Hawaii, landing here in January 1965, both wanting to attend the University of Hawaii. So I enrolled in College of Tropical Agriculture, got my 4-year degree, BS degree in animal nutrition, went on to get a master's degree in animal nutrition, and after graduation, through some interesting friendships and pieces of luck, ended up as a nutritionist in an aquaculture program at the Hawaii Institute of Marine Biology in Kaneohe Bay. And I was asked to develop diets for fish, for Canadian shrimps, and I could do whatever I wanted, other animals. I became quickly interested in raising sea turtles, and did some experiments with different diets, found out they were very, very fussy animals, and the rearing for farming purposes in aquaculture didn't quite work out as well as I wanted, and became interested in where the turtles came from. This was about 1971, 1972 we're talking about now, and some little hatchlings from the northwestern Hawaiian Islands at French Frigate Shoals were brought down to me to rear and do experiments with the turtles. And as I said, that didn't work out too real well because they're fussy eating animals when they don't have things that they like. And foodstuffs that you make for farmed animals have to be usually byproducts of other things to keep the cost down. Longer story shortened, I got the opportunity in 1973 to be the first person to go out to French Frigate Shoals, called in Hawaiian these days Lalo, the French Frigate Shoals, and I spent the first summer of 1973 counting and studying the turtles that nested on the little islet out there, Pukina or East Island, and came back to report to the people that I was reporting to, the state of Hawaii, the university, that the numbers were very, very small nesting on the island, and that something really needed to be done to conserve them. There was to ensure that there would still be turtles in the Hawaiian Islands. The tourist industry was booming then. The first 747s brought, 300 and some people at a time. Landing in the 1969 or 1970 was the first 747. The tourists started coming, and the tourists' desire for things local, things different, things Hawaiian. And in the restaurant trade, turtle steak quickly became popular, and the demand for turtle steak fueled a commercial industry by fishermen for these turtles. And a bit of greed took over because the price paid to the fishermen was pretty good. A $1 a pound, 100-pound turtle was $100. That's pretty good money for back in those years. And there were no controls on it whatsoever. So my coming back in late 1973, pointing out that the breeding colony, the only breeding colony we really knew of then, was incredibly small, 67 animals nesting on a 12-acre island for the entire summer. That's you don't have to be an ecologist to figure that one out too well. And state law was enacted the following year, 1974, that banned all commercial use of sea turtles, but still made an allowance for home use or subsistence use, cultural take, anything that was not commercial. So that's my history, and that's what I'm proud to be a part of. There were many people that lobbied uh, to get that law passed. It was called Regulation 36 to ban the commercial sale of sea turtles in Hawaii. I was put up by the DLNR. That actually back then it was the Division of Fish and Game, Land Board of the state, to go to public hearings and be their expert witness. Yep, I had to face them all, and actually that leads me into a very important part of my life, because during those hearings, I pointed out to people that restrictions needed to be put on the take of turtles. They were not harvesting turtles, they were mining turtles, if you will. Big difference. Harvesting implies a sustainability. Mining them implies that the supply is not being replenished. We're going to dig until there's nothing more. And one of the things that I said regularly at the hearings was, should the day ever come when the Hawaiian turtle is abundant, is restored, if you will, that I would be there as a leader, pointing out that that sustainable use could flourish in Hawaii, and I will speak out and on that behalf. That didn't help the commercial fishermen, but it sure helped the other people that were listening. And I tell you the truth that I never thought I would live long enough to see the turtle restored as it has been these days.
Why do you think the hawksbill turtle hasn't bounced back as well as the green sea turtle?
You probably could do another whole episode just on the hawksbill. I would point that out to you. There's a good question, reasonable to debate among scientists and others, that hawksbills may never have been very abundant in the Hawaiian Islands. And in fact, there's also the population is small. There's no indication at this point that it's going extinct by any means. There's also no real evidence to say that it was ever any more abundant than it is right now. But was the green turtle, the Honu, as abundant when Captain Cook landed early 1778? It was. I see evidence that the green turtle in Hawaii, and I will call it green turtle because it's from my era. It is the Honu, of course. It was never more abundant. In fact, the most abundant in any recorded history may be right now. We have turtles here, there, and everywhere is the expression I use. And for those that are disbelievers, they need to go down to the ocean. They don't have to get in the ocean. They need to go stand on the shore. They need to look at places where turtles are basking. But the hawksbill, the stronger case is that it probably was never more abundant than it is now. It's always been a very small population.
Interesting.
And I can give you reasons for that. I'll toss one reason out just so that you're well aware, and that is the hawksbill is known mainly for its shell, the scutes on the back that can be made into beautiful ornaments. Bishop Museum has several ancient ornaments that were from the royalty, from the royal family. And the other part is, of course, that the hawksbill was kapu. It is known to be poisonous. And
Ah,
it is poisonous occasionally throughout so that you're taking a one heck of a risk for anyone to eat the flesh of a hawksbill turtle. The sickness you get from it oftentimes can be fatal, and it's certainly painful and horrid if you read the accounts of it. The turtles alone are fascinating, but they're not what fascinates me the most. What fascinates me the most is their linkages in so many different ways to people. Indigenous peoples, especially people that never saw a turtle in their life, a sea turtle in their life until they were in their uh, early 20s, which was my case, that don't know anything about the dependencies and the traditional cultures that link with turtles. And I cannot think of sea turtles these days without thinking of the people that are linked to them. They're a part of our community. They're a part of the Hawaiian people. Who owns the turtles?
This mele talks about the Honu, and it actually comes from Auntie Mary Kamena Pukui, and she came out with all of these different sort of like nursery rhymes, but they're ditties, very short mele, short chants, short songs to sort of teach our children about these different things. But one of the mele that she records is a honue that talks about the turtle, and it's very simple. It says e honue, lu'uia a pi'i mai, means hey turtle, or addressing the turtle. Lu'uia, the turtle that dives and dives until it ascends a pi'i mai me ka pu'olo pa'akai, with a bundle of salt. And then we say olu, where lu means to scatter the pa'akai. So what it tells us, just in that simple mele, it tells us what the Honu does. It dives into the depths and then it rises again. But when it does rise, it brings a package. It brings a pu'olo, and in that pu'olo is pa'akai. So we know that in our Hawaiian practices and our family practices that anytime you go to someplace new, or anytime you go to some places or someone's home, that you don't come empty-handed. And sometimes even just a pu'olo pa'akai, just a package of salt, will suffice. And it's to show that you are making an effort to establish a connection, that you have rearing, and that you're not just coming with hands empty and hands open, but you're actually meeting halfway. The pa'akai, interestingly, is a physical manifestation of both our subconscious and our consciousness. When we're looking at the pa'akai, and we use the pa'akai in ceremony, whether it's to clear a space, to cleanse a space, but when we're looking at like how we normally use pa'akai, just generally pa'akai or salt is used to preserve meat or preserve food, to season food of course, but primarily to preserve things. So when we're using pa'akai in these different spaces, it's to also preserve the sacredness of that particular space. So the Honu, being a messenger or being a deliverer of this pa'akai, of this pu'olo pa'akai, and then spreading that pa'akai, has a lot to do with understanding how pa'akai is created, but then from a mythic perspective, looking at, well, pa'akai is really the ocean, and then because of its exposure to the sun, exposure to air, that ocean then becomes what we know as pa'akai or salt. So it goes through this transformation of water into something that's solid, because of its transformation, or because of its interaction from being water, and then its interaction with sun and air, and we have these two opposing, not thoughts, but you have these two differences of ocean, and you have subconscious, and then you have air and light, which is our consciousness coming together in that simple pocket. What we know about the Honu is that the Honu was here before people got here.
Okay.
So the Honu was already established in Hawaii, because Hawaiians are migratory people. So the islands were already established before Hawaiians or Polynesians came to Hawaii and established their home here in Hawaii. And what I know about the Honu is that the Honu survived for a very long time. That they were here since before humans were what we know humans to be today. So, we have different indigenous peoples who have stories of the creation of turtles. But personally, I don't know of the origin of Honu within the context of the Hawaiian universe.
I can totally empathize with people, tourists, locals, everybody that just love to look at a sea turtle. Sleeping on the beach doesn't barely move, but it still has a peaceful effect, at least the animal. It's a connection between people and turtles that's always been there. I also greatly enjoy catching a turtle. I like to control it. And we did that for decades and decades, to put flipper tags on turtles so they could be identified. Flipper tagging is the end result usually of capturing. And once captured, the flipper tag is put on. It's a great joy to me to let it go. I'm not innately a turtle hunter, but I have the empathy for those that are turtle hunters. I was in the Tokelau Islands north of Samoa in the early 80s. And the people there were telling, I was there to study turtles, to study the people's relation to turtles. Okay, this is a very remote atoll of 3 atolls of the Tokelau Islands. And I was speaking with the elders, and the one fellow told me about a person in the village that had lost his hearing, couldn't hear. And he had gotten that way because he went out to capture, swam out from shore when turtles were copulating, mating, and he had grabbed the male, taken it off the female, and the males have long tails, as we probably all know, and he had wrapped that tail around a part of this man's leg and dove. And he dove down with him, and the man was helpless for letting go. And he doesn't know how deep he dove, but it blew his ears out.
Oh my gosh.
And miraculously, the turtle's tail let go of the man, and he came back to the surface, deaf or mainly deaf.
Wow.
Oh my goodness, this is somebody risking, and they know this is danger, turtle hunting by indigenous peoples can be very dangerous for a number of reasons.
Make a
U.S. government decided in 1978, and I was not particularly happy about that at that time. I thought we had good protection as it was with the state law, but the federal government decided that a listing under the Endangered Species Act was needed. And that will be debated for decades whether it really was or wasn't. There's various. Certainly, it brought a lot of money for research. Certainly paid my salary. So, in a little bit of the selfish way of doing things, wow, that was a great thing. I'm sure my salary was higher working for the federal government than it was for the state of Hawaii. But that's too self-serving. I can't look back on my career and history in that regard. What did it do for the people of Hawaii, and especially the Hawaiian people of Hawaii, the original owners of the land that had things taken away from them, including their dignity?
Animals are a huge part of our natural environment, and animals and plants and people and nature in itself has a lot to do with when we're looking at our natural environment, and we think about our kupuna, we think about our ancestors. They brought all of these different elements and things into our stories. One, to capture history. Two, they were scientists, and they were very keen and sharp in understanding and questioning how their environment works. Aloha kako, my name is Pele Ka'io. I am an assistant professor at Hawai'i Community College in Hawaiian Studies. I live in Kapulena, which is in Ahupua'a, in between Honoka'a and Waipio. Yeah, so when it comes to ka'au, my kumuhula, Dr. Taupuri Tangaro, the way that I look at ka'au or myth has a lot to do with how he taught me to understand myth in terms of putting me or putting the learner in the center of the myth. So it's not about a story that happens outside of ourselves, but it's about stories that tell us about space and place. But really, it also opens us up to understanding how these different characters, how these different mythologies and stories reveal truths about ourselves. When we think about animals specifically, a lot of us tend to think about aumakua. And aumakua are familial gods or familial guardians that were once people, humans, that were transitioned into animals, and then they became protectors of a particular region, a particular space, or family. So a lot of times, especially now, people don't understand that aumakua is specific to region and family. So a lot of times you'll hear, oh, my aumakua is the shark, but it's not specific enough in terms of, well, what kind of shark? Where is the shark from? And what is the shark's name? And those are the important parts about understanding aumakua. Just like humans, that we have descendants, animals also have descendants, and therefore it's very specific to place. So when we're looking at ka'au from a mythic perspective, and we're looking at animals within the context of ka'au, within the context of mythology, we want to understand how these different animals function naturally in their environment, and what these ka'au are trying to tell us about these particular animals. Usually they tell us about either seasonality of the animal, or they tell us about behavioral functions of the animal. And then the other side of that is looking at, well, what do these different animals have to do with me? We're looking at the Honu. Largely, when I look at the Honu, it has to do with personal interpretation of the function of the Honu in that particular area or space. So we have kupua. Kupua can be looked at from the English name, and I don't necessarily like to use the English translations for akua or omakua or kupua because they don't really, the English side or English translation doesn't really give us enough information to really understand how they function from a Hawaiian perspective. So when we're looking at the word kupua, the English translation tells us that it's a demigod. When we're looking at it from a Hawaiian perspective, it can mean multiple things. Kupua are usually different animals or creatures or humans that have supernatural powers beyond what we consider their capacity, beyond their capacity of whether it's a Honu or a human, supernatural powers, but they're also protectors. So right here in Hilo, Keaukaha specifically, we have a kupua Honu, or a Honu that lives in that area of Keaukaha, that protects that area, but also is known to be a giant turtle or a giant Honu that has specific powers or specific qualities. Is
he magical?
Magical. It can be magical.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, when we're looking at history and when we're looking at myth, a lot of these things can be fantastical in the context of myth, but not always are they meant to be consumed as literal. They are fantastical, they are embedded in mythology, but there's a lot of truth to it. But because it's beyond their natural capacity, we often push it to the side as, oh, that's not real. So when we're looking at the Honu, and in this story that I'm going to share, we want to start to look at where do these Honu exist? How do they live? Honu lives in the ocean, but then also has to come to the surface for multiple things, whether it's to breathe after a couple of hours of being in the ocean, or whether it's to nest, they have to come on the shore. But then we start to look at what do these spaces mean? Where these Honu live and exist? So for me, the ocean has to do with our subconscious. We can see things on the surface, we can see things that sort of just come right underneath the surface, but beyond that, it's in our own interpretation and imagination of what's actually beneath the surface. And the Honu has the ability to travel into the depths of the ocean, travel thousands of miles away, but also needs to come to the surface and come into what I refer to as the consciousness. When you come into that space that's oxygenated with air, the Honu lives in this liminal space of consciousness and subconsciousness. So when we're looking at the Honu is able to travel within our own dream world where all of the magic happens, but then also able to come up to the surface to reveal to us within our own awareness what's lying deep within ourselves.
They are amazing creatures to watch them nest, to watch them lay eggs, to try to learn about their mysteries. Green turtles do not nest every year. They nest every 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. We're talking about a small breeding population. For what we later learned genetically through molecular genetics, that the Hawaiian population of green turtles is indeed Hawaiian. It is exclusive to the Hawaiian archipelago.
Honu is a deeply symbolic and some might say magical creature in Hawaii. These animals often swim up to humans and seem intensely curious, sometimes looking people in the eye for 5 minutes or more at a time of their own accord. And residents of turtle ponds and beaches develop long-lasting relationships with the turtles who live near them.
Hi, my name is Malia. I was born and raised on the Big Island of Hawaii. I love my environment, I love the people here, and I had a special story to tell. Playing my flute on the side and the coast in Hilo Bay, I had a really wondrous, amazing experience. The sea turtles had gathered in a tide pool, and there were about 8 or 9 of them, and they were very peaceful and serene. I did notice that the sea turtles had tumors on them, and I didn't know, are they just gathering because they're tired or just that they wanted to rest. But I was very happy to see them all there together, and it was really beautiful. So I decided to pull out my flute, and I began to play just some melody to them. And they all were amazing and, responded by swimming around and looking, curiously out of the water at the sound of the flute. And as I was playing, I felt, some kind of energy, and I didn't know, really, I couldn't really place it. And I just thought it's just a really amazing time with the turtles. And when I looked back at my footage, I realized that I had caught something really amazing. I had caught some kind of blue orb that was interacting with me and the sea turtles and going in and out of the pond. And as I was filming it, I started to talk to it and engage with it, and it started to vibrate lighter and dimmer towards my questions and talking to it. And I felt like it was a very special experience and wanted to share the film with everyone who wanted to see it, and loved that there was a documentary about turtles. And I love sea turtles myself, and I'm sure as everyone loves sea turtles. They really do represent Hawaii, and it's good to keep an eye on them for our ecosystem. So when they're showing signs of being sick or gathering in a place, it's good for us to make note of that and, always leave them enough space, but also pay attention to their beauty and give them the respect that they deserve. Aloha.
Because of the pendulum I was telling you about, this polarization of peoples that's happened over the years, turtle lovers that wish to just watch turtles, and turtle lovers at the other end of the spectrum that have a cultural history of use of turtles. Both groups love the turtles in their own ways, and I can see it, I empathize with it. I think the most important thing is that the two polarized groups need to come together and understand that just because you would want to eat a turtle and gain spiritual strength from it, that doesn't mean you don't love turtles and you want to see them all annihilated.
Right.
And on the other side of the coin, those that gain their joy and are abhorred by thinking of even eating a turtle, that their life and attitudes need to be respected too. Don't try to force each other into your square. We might even just be accepting, so long as things are, the key word, sustainable. Is there a
So This story starts here in Hilo, and it's actually not about the Honu specifically, but it mentions this Honu, and it becomes a large part of the story later on. This story starts with this kupua, whose name is Kana, and he is born here in Hilo, up the Akupua'a known as Pi'ihonua, to his mother Hina. And when he's born, he doesn't take the form or the shape of a human. He doesn't have that kino maoli or that natural human form. He's born as a piece of kaula or a piece of cord, which speaks largely to his function. His grandmother, Uli, ends up taking him and raising him up Pi'ihonua, up Mauka in Hilo in exile. And she raises him away from the family, and she teaches him about his abilities, his special abilities that he has. And on the island of Molokai, there lives this chief. His name is Kape'epe'ekawila. And he is in search of the fairest of them all. He's in search of his own wahine, his own woman. And he sends his 2 bird messengers to go fetch the fairest of them all. And they go to these different islands, and they finally come to Mokuola, sacred English name, Coconut Island, here in Hilo. And they find Hina. And they tell Kape'epe'ekawila, the chief of Molokai, that in Hilo at Mokuola, there's this beautiful woman whose name is Hina. And Kape'epe'ekawila tells them, let's bring her, let's fetch her, let's bring her to Molokai. And they do. They steal Hina, and Kana's father realizes that he needs help. That he's not going to be able to go to the island of Molokai to retrieve his wife back. So he asks his son, Niheu, to help him. And Niheu knows that he doesn't have the capacity to travel to Molokai and fetch his mother on his own. And Kana gets wind of this, and he comes down from the uplands of Pi'ihonua and comes down to the lowlands of Hilo. And Niheu tells the father that you have to go and ask Kana to help us. And at this point, Kana was raised in exile, and he doesn't really know who his family is, but the father goes and tells Kana that he needs his help. And Niheu says, go and fetch Kana, your son, but the only thing is, don't look at him because he's scary. He's scary looking. So go and fetch him, and Kana will help us. And he does so. And Kana comes, and they realize that they need a va'a, they need a vessel of some sort to get them from Hilo to Molokai. So Uli tells them, that you have to go to Paliuli. And there at Paliuli, you'll find what you need. So they do, and there they unearth the va'a, whose name is Kaumei Eli Eli. And they have to use Kana's body. Remember, Kana takes the shape or the form of kaula, all of these different sizes of rope. And they use his body to lash this canoe in order for them to get to the island of Molokai, where Hina is. They finally reach the island of Molokai, and at the top of Haupu, this hill, is where Kape'epe'ekawila, the chief of Molokai, is holding Hina. And at this point, Hina becomes brainwashed by Kape'epe'ekawila, and she knows that she has Niheu, who is known to have a superhuman strength, but he has, like, his kryptonite is his hair. And Hina knows this, and Hina tells Kape'epe'ekawila that his weakness is his hair. So they go back and forth, and they finally reach to Hina, and they have to defeat this hill. And Kana, Nihil tells Kana, you have to go look for Uli, our grandmother, and Uli will have the answers in terms of how to beat this hill. So Kana stretches his body as far as he can and as high as he can, and he becomes so thin that it's like a spider web. As thin as a spider web, and he stretches his body from the island of Molokai over Haleakala and Maui, and finally back to the island of Hawaii. And Uli tells Kana, this is how you're gonna defeat Haupu Hill. Haupu is situated on a turtle. And the turtle is going to stretch its flippers to bring Haupu Hill as high as it can, and as high as your body will allow you to. It'll match you. But the one way that you defeat Haupu Hill is you need to cut off the flippers of the Honu. And that's what will bring Haupu Hill back down, and that's how you take advantage of this hill and bring Hina successfully back home. And Kana does. He listens to his grandmother Uli. He cuts the flippers off of the turtle, and the Honu's name is Kahonu Nui Maiaea, or another version tells us that the Honu's name is Kahonu Nui Maileka. And Kana successfully cuts off the flippers. They end up retrieving Hina and bringing Hina back to Hilo, and everything is restored. So just in that short version of this story of Kana, we come to find the importance of not only Kana, but Haupu Hill situated on the Honu. And when I think of the Honu being an island, one of the places that I think of first is Turtle Island. And Turtle Island is what the First Nations on the continent call their landmass. They call it Turtle Island, or in Hawaiian, Moku Honu. And just like Turtle Island on the continent, we have an example of that in a smaller form here on the island of Molokai, where Haupu Hill is situated on this Honu. What does it have to do with anything, and what does it have to do with this story? So let's go back to who Hina is. Hina is this primordial image of everything that it means to be a female, everything that it means to be a woman. The word Hina has to do with, yes, leaning on something, and we see a lot of stories where Hina leans on her male counterparts in order to find balance. But in the context of this story, yes, she leans on her sons to restore balance, to restore the world as she knows it back into order. But Hina has to also do with Mahina, has to do with the moon, has to do with currents and tides. So we know that Hina has to do, yes, with balance, but also with cycles in nature. And then her counterparts are her son Nihil, that has to do with supernatural strength. Her son Kana, who takes the shape of this kaula, or this cord, really has to do with making connections beyond our perceived limitations. And the only way that they were able to make the connection and the journey from Hilo to Molokai was using Kana's body to lash the canoe in order for them to journey. And when they journey, they reach Haupu. And when we're looking at Ka'au and myth, we want to understand what these different names mean. So Haupu. Haupu has to do with recollection, a recollection of dreams. So when we wake up and we have a dream and we want to try and remember what was it that I was dreaming about, we have this word called Haupu. And Haupu, to sit on the turtle, to sit on the Honu, whose function is to bring from the depths of our subconscious into our awareness so that we can remember things whether it's from our ancestral memory, beyond our physical self, and looking into the past to bring that into our awareness in order for balance to be restored in ourselves, in order for us to make the connections that we are trying to make and our conscious minds are not allowing us to make those kinds of connections. We have to dig deep and allow our Honu to travel into those dark spaces of our subconscious in order to bring to light what it is that we actually need. So.
Here's one of the most exciting things that happened in my career, fondly think of to this day. I was charged with taking batches of these 25 turtles. We took some to the North Shore. We took some to Maui. We flew in a Coast Guard plane. They volunteered flying 25 of them over the Hilo. We went out to Keaukaha. 25 turtles go there. I put the metal tag on the turtles, so the numbers were on. And of those 25, they were let go there. I personally did it with these hands. 1981, and flash forward to the year 2000, 19 years later, making the turtle about 20 years old. I get a call from friends over on Maui that said there's a turtle nesting in the Lahaina area, and it's got a metal tag on it. And we think the tag number is 5690. So 5690, I don't recall that for the nesting tag series. Long story short, it was one of the turtles that I myself let go. She was nicknamed Maui Girl. I saw the tag myself because I didn't quite believe that a turtle 19 years later would be nesting there. She nested between the year 2000 every year, every 2 or 3 years until the year 2016. She hasn't nested again. She became very popular on Maui. There's a children's book written about her called 56 Tag 5690. How many people in the world have ever taken a 7-pound turtle and let it go and had it come back 19 years later and be blessed to be able to see that turtle? I went over there every year she was predicted and saw her, put a satellite tag on her even. She went up to and lived her foraging area was not far away. It was the Naipitli area up the coast on Maui.
Wow. So did she just end her breeding days? Was that just the end of her breeding cycle, and that's why she stopped breeding there, or did she disappear?
We don't know. She just hasn't shown up again.
Oh.
Probably the highlight of my entire career is knowing I was involved with that turtle and that she nested and the community protected her and the hatchlings.
Thanks for coming with me today as we explored Honu in Hawaii. Join me next time as we take flight with Hawaii's birds of prey. A hui ho!
Hawai'i.